Human.
Just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barrero's Top 5 at 5. Brought to you by Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
Kessie is in the house. He will join us probably after the Top 5 at 5. We're out at 6 for Golden Gopher men's basketball. Thanks, Mace. We'll see you next week. What do you got, Gaardsy?
Donovan Jackson did not participate in practice today. He has an ankle injury. Levi Drake Rodriguez, he must have hurt his neck yesterday talking with us. He did not participate with a neck injury today. Jonathan Allen didn't. That was not injury related. He gets to rest.
Do you think it was because he had to crane his neck in my direction? I was like to his immediate right, and he got like a kink in your neck from like extending it too far.
He should have done what Seifert did and just completely turned his back to me.
He's mad at you about that, by the way.
Why?
Well, because you made it sound like he took it as an insult. The thing you said, I think it's Kevin Seifert, Life of a Producer.
Yeah.
And so he was like, wow. I think he's a little down about it. I mean, you might want to...
Here's the thing. He's not used to it because he never comes to the State Fair. That's a continuation of the State Fair series.
That's true, and I forgot to bring that up, though.
You still haven't the Weird Al thing?
The ultimate test, yeah the Weird Al. So we'll do that. Remind me next week.
But that's because as you know, where I sit at the State Fair was essentially where I sat yesterday, to your left.
Yes, that's true.
One chair over, right. 2 chairs over. And every guest that we have just turns and stares at you, which is fine. It's the bumper to bumper with Dan Barrero.
Their back. Yeah, you're right.
I do Life as a Producer, and it happens every single day. Kessler actually sometimes fans out and stands back.
He does.
He's got to move a little bit.
Actually,
He's the one guy that really hasn't been part of Life of a Producer, but Seifert's just not used to it because as I'm sitting there, I said, I feel like I'm back in Carousel Park.
Yeah, I don't think you necessarily meant it as a slight.
Nope. It's just a continuation of just a brilliant bit over the years, the Life of a Producer series, where I'm sitting in the sun.
Award-winning. There's any question about that.
Waiting for it.
Yeah. By the way, J.J. McCarthy full, correct? Did you say that already?
Well, he was actually limited, but it had nothing to do with injury.
Wow.
But
I didn't see that coming.
Full participant. That's all I really wanted to do.
Sounds like a Brosmer oboe for sure.
Well, I was going to say Brosmer was not limited as well.
Would you have had the cojones to say that?
Yeah, because that won't affect how much I like him.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It's too easy of a line.
But
Darisaw was full today too, by the way, also, which is important.
Yes, by all accounts, McCarthy will start.
Yes.
On Sunday against Washington. And do we know whether Daniel's starting or not? Daniels is?
He was limited in practice today.
Okay.
I'm glad you asked. He was limited with his left elbow injury. So that's the Vikings injury report. The Wild won last night, 1-0. The Great Wall of St. Paul, brilliant again. 4th shutout in 6 games. Picking up right where he left off in December. From November when he won the Rookie of the Month award. And the Wolves won last night in overtime at the always difficult to play Smoothie King Arena.
There were 8 people at the game.
In New Orleans. It was quiet.
They're a mess. And they obviously, their superstar, alleged superstar player, he's out again, correct?
Zion Williamson.
Yep,
for a couple of weeks.
It was a play with your food game, and then I'll be honest, they would not have even won it in the end if not for a couple of steals. One I think was
throws from New Orleans,
and those are the things that opened the door.
Jaden had a good steal.
Yes, I think Dante had one as well, and then Edwards was terrific offensively. Defensively, he turned his head a couple times and gave up the layups. His offense is getting better. What I do appreciate is, as we said with Mike Conley, who joined at 3:30, that with down 2, Wolves have the ball, one last chance at the end of regulation. He goes straight to the basket and scores.
Wide open.
And the stat that Johnny Athletic reminded us of is that's the first time in his career that he has scored either a game-tying or a game-winning basket with 3 seconds or less to go in regulation or OT, which is eye-opening, I think, a little
crazy.
Bit. But I would argue, the reason for that is he doesn't do enough of what he did last night. And it's not always easy to get to the hoop. I get that. But to me, that's what I want to see more, go downhill. But his intermediate shot rate making, I think, is getting better. I do sense that he is getting better, and he's much more comfortable. It's clear he's worked on that particular shot. But their defense was a mess in the first half, and an even slightly better team, they would not have been able to come back and steal that game.
His finishing at the rim has gotten a lot better,
yes,
too.
That's
He's
true.
finishing in all kinds of different ways. He had one while they were making their run. I think it was in overtime, where he's on the right side and he kind of Euro steps and then does like a left hand.
Yeah, that's a nice
on
one.
the
Yeah,
side. I mean,
very nice.
So smooth.
Uses the basket itself as the to ward off the defender.
Very
and goes
pretty.
back the other side. You're correct.
Let's straddle and get to Kessler because we're out at 6.
We are out at 6 o'clock. And then when we come back, we'll ask Rose Bowl guys got a question for you that might be, actually, should I add that Kessler himself would like it as well.
What does that mean?
And then we'll get to a bunch of other stuff before we wrap things up at 6 for Golden Gopher men's basketball against undefeated Indiana University.
I wish the American media would take a great look at the views of the people in Congress and find out, are they pro-America or anti-America?
Pat Kessler.
Because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
Trust Obama. He's an Arab.
Pat Kessler.
Tear down this wall.
I did nothing wrong at the Minneapolis airport.
Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy.
Pat Kessler.
And now, to help Dan break down all the tough questions in politics, it's our own
Pat Kessler.
Political Wonk.
I feel like a supermodel, except like times 10.
It's Channel 4's
Pat Kessler.
with Dan Barrero on the Fan.
Many of us are frustrated.
Yeah, we are. We're all very frustrated, are we not? Kessler is indeed back with us. And we're out at 6, as I said, for Gopher Hoop action, as we like to say in the business. So you're on your way to you're going straight from here to the barn, correct?
I actually will.
First Big Ten game of the year.
I know.
Against undefeated in 2 sports.
Where does this
Indiana.
undefeated stuff with Indiana come from?
I have no idea.
I mean, honest to goodness.
It's
yes.
real. There are a million things for us to discuss, some of them more significant than this, but I have to bring this to your attention, and you may or may not know about this because I know you've had a very, very busy day, but it falls into the classification of what are we doing? I'll read you the couple paragraphs. President Trump said today that he would pardon, this is one of several, Representative Henry Cuellar, Democrat of Texas, who was awaiting trial on charges that he and his wife had taken roughly $600,000 worth of bribes from an Azerbaijani oil company and a Mexican bank. The charges against Mr. Cuellar and his wife, Imelda, filed last year in Houston, centered on accusations of bribery and money laundering. Despite Mr. Cuellar's political affiliation, Mr. Trump has expressed public support for him. Why would that be? Well, here's the quote via Trump's social media platform on, Truth Social, whatever. Sleepy Joe went after the congressman and even the congressman's wonderful wife, Imelda, simply for speaking the truth. Henry, I don't know you, but you can sleep well tonight. Your nightmare is finally over. So, in effect, what we have further confirmation of is if you support me, especially if you're a Democrat, in this case having to do with Biden-era border policies, then I don't care what you did. I don't care what you were convicted of. I don't care who or what you stole from. You're going to get a free pass. There's 2 or 3 other examples just this week.
It's happening. What you
Daily.
described is happening
Daily.
And here is what makes me very cynical. I'm sorry if you have more to read about it.
That's plenty.
But here's what makes me really cynical. The Democrats were distancing themselves from Cuellar, and he has announced after this pardon that he, in fact, is going to run for re-election. And Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, is like, hey, okay, we're with you. So all is forgiven, all is forgotten. This was an intensive investigation. The charges were serious enough that the investigation revealed enough that they filed very serious charges against him. And who knows where it was going to do, but he has been pardoned preemptively, and his wife, even before a trial, because he may or may not have expressed some sympathy and support for the border policy of President Trump.
That's all it took. I'll give you another example.
Yes.
Is it pronounced Gentile? David Gentile? The commutation Trump issued to him wipes away all further fines and restitution. he had been sentenced to 7 years for his role in a $1.6 billion scheme that defrauded thousands of investors. Prosecutors had been seeking, as a result, $15.5 million in forfeiture. But as I understand it, the way this is set up now, their restitution's off the table. Further fines are off the table.
That's correct. In that case, that's true.
What world are we living in here now?
And we haven't even begun to talk about the former Honduran president convicted, indicted and convicted by the United States.
On what?
Drug smuggling.
Wait a minute. I thought we were blowing people out of the water because we don't like other countries sending stuff to our shores that are killing our kids.
We have to talk about this. And why did President Trump say he's pardoning the Honduran president? Well, it's because Joe Biden, according to him, rigged the charges, and they went after him aggressively. Right. And so if anybody, if you're listening and you've got some federal charge against you during the Biden administration, you might as well put in for it now.
You got a shot.
That one is the one that it's inexplicable to me. And there's a disconnect because I think there was really substantial evidence that this Honduran president was working with the drug cartels, taking massive bribes to allow drugs to go through Honduras into the United States. So no boats getting blown up over there, for sure.
All right, let's get more local.
That's really interesting.
Again, I mean, and the Trump folks in the audience, I'll just say, all I'm trying to do here is follow the story. Don't shoot the messenger here on, these stories are happening in real time. I'm not making them up. And at some point, you go, well, that's a little curious, isn't it, at the very least, even if you're a supporter? But that's just me. All right, so let's get to the brewing, it appears, local story involving ICE and response also, I think, from the Minneapolis Police Department. Bring us up to date on where this story is and whether we are headed for some serious confrontation.
I think this is very serious, what's about to happen in the United States, something that President Trump, it's going to be happening in Minneapolis, something that President Trump has been forecasting, signaling for the last few days. Let's go to the headline. About 100 ICE agents are going to be deployed to Minneapolis-St. Paul starting this week. Now, today's Wednesday. It could happen very, very soon. It is an escalation of the president's social media on his Truth Social and in the cabinet meeting as recently as yesterday with his language about Somalis and Somali Minnesotans who are U.S. citizens. He is going to go after them with ICE agents. And this is possibly going to be a lot more tumultuous than we expect. It has been in every city. And by the way, these are blue cities right now, Chicago here. He's going to New Orleans today, I think. But he says about Somalis, they contribute nothing. They're garbage. I don't want them in our country. He calls Ilhan Omar garbage. I mean, startlingly cruel language from a president we already know. Have we become numb to some of the crude and clumsy and cruel language, but this was way beyond anything he has said before. So what's happening is that the chief of police of Minneapolis and the mayors of Minneapolis and St. Paul held a press conference yesterday in which the chief said, if you see people pulling up in unmarked vans and masks and military, and they're not identified as law enforcement officer, what did he say, Dan? Call 911.
Yeah, right.
What is that going to do? What is that going to do? I think that probably that may have the that may have the effect of escalating all of this a little bit. And I don't know if that means that Minneapolis police are going to show up. Is it clear?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. Has the police chief articulated then what the sequence would be?
No, and so that's what we need to know,
right?
Because in Minnesota, the policy in Minneapolis is that the Minneapolis police are not here to aid in deportations and any kind of immigration enforcement. They're not here for that. They're here for crowd control. And in many other cities, and I expect to see this in Minneapolis, people are going to converge upon these scenes. But he makes an interesting point that you can make here in the Twin Cities and you can't in other cities. And that is that we have a history of people impersonating police, knocking on doors, and then murdering residents inside, a la Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark, and then shooting the Hoffmans, the senator and his wife. So what's going to happen here? We don't know. Why is this happening? It's been escalating for a few days. He's in a serious feud with Governor Tim Walz, whom he called the R word. That is shockingly insulting for people with disabilities and for families like the Walz family, who has a special needs son. Many families, including my own, who have special needs, the family members. This is what has happened, and that escalated then with the National Guard shooting in Washington, which was horrible, a terrible, ugly thing that happened. And it was an Afghan refugee who was granted asylum in the United States. That's where the floodgates opened with President Trump, where he is going to escalate this, leveraging this to do what he has promised to do, shut down pretty much immigration to the United States, except for white Afrikaners from South Africa. He is talking about with Somali Minnesotans, maybe we should denaturalize them. We have 80,000 Somalis here. Most of them, and I can't give you the percentage, but most of them are American citizens. And what do? They will focus on 200, 300, 400 Somalis who either are targeted for deportation or have temporary protective status. Those, I think, is where you're going to see a lot of the action here. But it's going to be ugly. It's all mixed up in the fraud that you and I have been talking about
forever,
for a couple of years, because he says the Somalis are ripping off Minnesota, and it's the Somalis.
All right, let's break. We have lots more time to get back more on this story, and I want to cover a couple of the other stories with Pat Kessler after a very brief pause. Stay tuned.
Final segment of the show presented by American Pressure, commercial grade pressure washer since 1975.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
Kessler is in the house. Think of this commitment to the bit. He is going over to the barn immediately afterwards. Game's supposed to start at 6. He's going to be with us till 5:54 or whatever we're actually out of here. And yet, he's not leaving early. Now, he did confirm to me that he might have a quote-unquote privileged special entrance.
Well, I just assume he's doing the valet parking tonight.
I would say no. I would say no.
You would say it, but would you mean it?
I would. No, it's even better than valet parking. I have a next to the door.
That's true. You have great parking.
Yes. And
so what's Freaky doing?
It does make it a lot easier. It makes it a lot easier. When the snowstorm is there, the blizzard, and
It's good being Special K.
Why don't you just buy some tickets? I mean, that's what I did. I pay for this privilege,
I'm not sure did you actually buy the tickets?
Come on, of course. Yeah, season ticket holder, man.
You and Michelle Kelm-Helgen and Hank
stop
bought
it.
The tickets.
They
were in the news the other day. What was the story?
She was
they weren't. It was a
She
history.
was a great public servant. She was.
I'm not.
And then you drag the family into it. Look at you.
Well, the subject came up again recently.
I'll have to Google
wrote
it.
about it? Somebody did. You might have been Dan Winnesota. Might have had something. I don't remember.
That could be
some anniversary.
You get one ticket away to a family member and a top politician, and that's all they remember.
You let Hank get a hot dog in the Norseman suite because it was Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
You have to get fired.
And then this is the finest stadium, and she built it in the United States and the NFL, right there.
Does Chris Maddle, who I know reasonably well, who has thrown his hat into the ring on the Republican side, stand without, as far as we know, any political history or any experience running for anything? Is it the kind of election year cycle where anything's possible, given he does, in one sense, have a fairly high profile, but I'm just trying to figure out, does he have any chance, or is he kidding himself throwing his hat into the ring?
No, I think he is a formidable candidate with a slate of people supporting him that are going to be, it's going to be really interesting. He'll do law and order. He has the support of the police. I think the Minneapolis Police Federation has endorsed him. He is well known as a prosecutor who's very, very tough, including on crime. And so, I think he is going to be a formidable candidate, and he is going to prosecute the case against Walz, in large part, I believe, because of the fraud, the hundreds of millions of dollars of fraud that I think leave Governor Walz very vulnerable to a Republican challenger, a Republican opponent. I think Mattel is absolutely somebody who can make waves and make a difference in this race. They're going to have to fight over the MAGA wing of the party.
Well, I've already seen who is the Republican. There is a Republican, I don't know if he's a state senator or state rep, who has already said, he's already dismissed Mattel. Do you know how? Do you know why? Have you heard about this? The basis was he has contributed to Democrats in the past and really has been a quasi-Democrat until this year. And I'm thinking to myself, can you be that stupid? You're in a blue state. Do you want to have an actual chance to win? If you do, you have to cease with these stupid purity tests, because you can be pure, but I'm just telling you, in the state of Minnesota, you're never going to win a significant office again.
And I think when you're in a position like Chris Mattel is, navigating all sorts of things.
Hotshot attorney.
Absolutely. You know who else? One of my favorite people who has contributed to Republicans and Democrats alike. Your guy, Donald Trump.
Well,
Donald
back
Trump
in the day,
has contributed tens of thousands of dollars to Democrats. But one other thing, it's going to be a fight over the MAGA wing, the farthest right of the Minnesota Republican Party. And you see who's filed papers to run today.
No.
Another one of our show favorite, your My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell. Well, I say don't dismiss that.
I am dismissing it.
I'm
not dismissing that he could win the nomination.
That could be.
He has no chance to win.
That could have an effect on everything, on the people, the person that the Republican Party nominates, or endorses. Who knows, when you have 5-10 people in a primary, who knows which way it's going to go? Because I think party endorsements are not worth much anymore this year, anymore after this year. So, there's going to be a lot of people trying to claim the endorsement of the MAGA wing of the party, although they have to walk a tightrope and thread the needle here, because they don't want to say, I really am a Trump guy.
Well,
in Minnesota. You just, that's one of the things. It might help. So what they're going to do is go after Walz. And I think there's a lot to go after.
Well, that's the thing. There is room there. I thought he was not impressive at all on, was it Meet the Press? I didn't think I thought he was way too defensive. Now on that segment, he made it sound like, I'm the law and order guy. They're going to jail, because it's like, you had nothing to do with that part of it.
This is the thing. Pardon me for interrupting, but when does Governor Walz clearly accept responsibility?
At some level, at least.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We really messed this up somehow. And although, yes, there have been prosecutions, yes, there have been court cases, and I think 37 Minnesota Somalis have been pled guilty or been convicted. At some point, Minnesota has to reckon with what has happened over the last couple of years here. And so far, I don't think the Democrats have really done it.
By the way, Andy Luger is going to be back in studio with us tomorrow. The original plan was Tuesday, and then I had to be reminded that yesterday was our Toys for Tots Day. Mm-hmm. So Luger is going to be in studio tomorrow. A lot of discussion about a New York Times
some good questions,
piece.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot to discuss with him. A lot.
Well,
to get
we're
into.
talking
Beyond
about the New York Times piece. The good news is that, hey, Minnesota's on the front page of the New York Times.
And a lot of
bad news is that it's about how bad we are.
A lot of it has been reported locally, so this was sort of the national perspective on it, although there were some interesting quotes in there that are extremely damning. There's no question about that. So we'll see exactly where that goes. It was within just the last, how many weeks ago was it that T-Paw was on with my former partner Hartman, Chad, and basically said, yeah, there are a lot of Republicans I know that they want me to run, but I'm not an idiot. I will not be accepted by the current Republican Party in the state of Minnesota, and as long as that's the case, I got nowhere to go. And we've kind of talked about this before. And look, you don't have to love Tim Pawlenty. You really don't. And you could say, well, he's not conservative enough for me, whatever you want to say. But I'm still stunned, I guess, that the Republican political operatives in this state, just from a practical standpoint, say, we want to get in there or not. And if we do, then he represents exactly the section of the party that we need to emphasize again, or to reintroduce maybe. And maybe that's incompatible in a MAGA world. Maybe that's the bottom line: is the two sides cannot coexist. But he has as much said, and he ain't exactly a lefty. T-Paw has said,
absolutely not.
I can't win here. I can't. They don't. This isn't me. This isn't. I'm not going to do the ideological purity test that you're looking for, or get into some of the social issues that I don't think are worthy of our time. But that, to me, continues to be the essential question within this state about the Republican Party. Is there anybody mature enough to say, I want to win? And if that means I have to, quote unquote, compromise a little of my MAGA-ness, I'd rather do that. And to me, I don't know, maybe T-Paw wouldn't win anyway after the fact now. Maybe it's too far past him. But what he represents is exactly where, to me, the party has to go. Because as you said, I think deep down there's a lot of Democrats who wish that Walz was not running.
I think
really
that's absolutely true.
And there's never been, I think, greater vulnerability for a lot of reasons. But you're back to, if you can't capitalize on this now, I don't know that you're ever going to have a better chance.
Well, for those who don't know or have forgotten, Governor Pawlenty, Tim Pawlenty, is the last Republican to win statewide in the state of Minnesota. How many years was that? 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And the last statewide winner. And he states something that is absolutely true, that the party has been taken over by Trump supporters and MAGA. But there is absolute room for someone who is a moderate who can, and he's threaded the needle very, very well, supporting Trump's policies and gently pushing back when he had to against some of the craziness coming out of Washington. Somebody who can gain the moderate Republicans, a lot of the independents, and perhaps some more conservative Democrats. But the guy knows how to count. He knows what's up, what the real story is. So he would be somebody who would be kind of interesting to run for the United States Senate. I do think Republicans have some people like him if they can unchain themselves and somehow appease the right wing of the party and yet appeal to the independents and moderate Democrats. That's the only way you're going to win, because all the Democrats, all the votes, most of the votes are in Duluth, Twin Cities, Rochester, and that's where the votes are. You got to get them.
651. I've had a bunch of texts. I've responded to some of them, but not all of them. And a couple people have acknowledged my response and grudgingly agreed. If the allegation is that this program, whether you're on or not, has not discussed in depth frequently the Feeding Our Future scandal, and several other scandals in the state of Minnesota, to the point where one of the T-shirt possibilities we had for the state fair was "Land of 10,000 Scandals."
Yes.
Then you're living in that make-believe world where you want to lash out and pretend that subject is being ignored. As I mentioned, Andy Luger is going to be back on it tomorrow, and he's been front and center through all of this stuff. So we've had plenty, because the text we're getting kind of is, guess you don't want to have Kessler comment on the billions of dollars of fraud committed by the Somali community as rationale for targeting these individuals. Now, here's the problem with that text. You're not asking, if you were asking that those individuals responsible for crimes would be targeted by the feds in this case, starting with Andy Luger, and then was it Joe Thompson afterwards?
Yep.
You'd say, yeah, that's what you do. The issue is, in front of us is, many of the texts are, well, on the basis of that story, in which there were many Somalis involved, as a New York Times story laid out with a couple of interesting quotes, means that everybody with any Somalian connections, get them out of here. That's madness. That's stupidity. That's, for me, insanity. And in fact, I think it damages the case in going after the individuals responsible for stealing millions and millions into probably, eventually billions of dollars. So I don't think that should be that difficult to be able to separate those two issues. But for a lot of people, it's impossible.
Well, a couple of things can be true at once. Number one, for those who are just waking up to this story now, since it was on the front page of the New York Times and then the County Highway, the Christopher Rufo website, for those of you who are just waking up to it, Minnesota media and this program have done hundreds of stories about this over the years. So that is true. But something else could also be true, and this is something you kind of got to get at. Why is this fraud still happening? What is it about this that allows this fraud to continue happening? And is there something endemic in our state government? And I don't think that story has really, we haven't really gotten to that. Is it because we are all in this state such super liberals, lefties, that we don't want to offend the Somalis or people of color? That has been suggested. Is it because the Somalis come from a lawless country, refuge here, and the president suggests that? Maybe that's part of it. I mean, what is it?
Right.
I still
that's
think
still a story to be done. You're right. I mean,
so that can be true too.
Yes.
But finally, that has nothing to do with people of color from Somalia being garbage, as the president is saying. So all of these things can be true, and all of our listeners, and we're all smart enough, we can have some nuance here.
Should be able
that
to.
Some stuff is real and something else can be real at the same time. I don't think we've gotten to the bottom of why all this happened.
No.
Yet. And I think that's a good story.
Andy has talked about it before. I do think a component of it was there was great fear. The Times story suggested, well, these are Democratic votes that we might be losing. That's another thing that needs to be explored. And part of it was, as soon as some of the pushback started, there was a concern about, well, I'm going to be branded, despite my blue blood politically, as a racist.
Yes.
If we go after this. And as Luger has said, you have to dismiss that you cannot be cowed by that, because in the end, a lot of people who needed these services and help, and many of them may have been people of color, lose.
Yeah. So one of the things about this, and that's absolutely true. Do we get to the part where we didn't want to investigate this as state government
as thoroughly as
because
we
of that?
Right.
And in fact, we talked a few weeks ago about there is some evidence that the Democrats actively kept this from being heard in the Minnesota legislature and committees. I was startled by the Minnesota Watchdog legislative auditor who said this in the Star Tribune. So there are many, many different parts of it. I still think there's little or no evidence, as one of these stories is saying, that the money from Feeding Our Future ended up with Al-Shabaab, the terrorist group.
No evidence of that, I agree.
But if
I'm going to ask Andy about it again. Let's see it. Exactly right.
I got to believe the feds, somebody as capable as Joe Thompson, Andy Luger, or the current U.S. Attorney Rosen, if that was there, they would prosecute that. I got to believe it. But I'd love to see if that's actually true.
That's all very true. So you're on your way to Golden Gopher to the barn.
Why not?
Why not?
Gaardsy reminds us that we lost our point guard, right? He's out for the season. We're down to, is it 7 players?
We don't deserve anything.
Apparently we don't.
And I think it's because...
Except good parking.
Yeah, well, I got that. I alone. The three of us have it.
Are
Me,
you one of those
myself,
barn? Are you a barn loft guy?
Much better.
I figured, yeah.
But why don't you?
Listen to you.
Why don't you?
I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch. What's it
Why
on
don't
tonight?
you take
Is it
your
Peacock
wallet-
night? Do we know?
I think it's BTN tonight.
Why don't
BTN.
you take your wallet, retrieve it from the bottom of Bidet Makaska, and open it up?
That's cheap.
And just spend a little money on some basketball tickets. How about that?
No.
Would that work for you?
That's the answer. I think PJ said it. No, I'm not going to do that.
That's
Sorry.
so good. That is so good.
I'm going to save my money for which bowl are you rooting for?
Well, I want a warm weather bowl.
I'm asking Gaardsy.
Oh, I
Now
see.
you're going to ask
I'm
me.
rooting for Vegas, but they're not going to get it.
I would love
Nebraska's
Vegas.
going to get
And what
Vegas,
would
I think. They'll be
What
back
would
in
the
Arizona.
Arizona. How about New York? How about the
That's a
pinstripe?
possibility, but I don't think they're going to end up there.
Nah, not that.
You'd have to worry about Detroit, right?
Correct.
We don't want New York. Yeah. I've been there.
Well, yeah, I know you.
But no, warm weather. That'd be awesome.
You would take Phoenix? Well, it doesn't matter. If you go, you'll end up ditching Gaardsy anyway once you get
It's
there.
true. It means nothing to me if Kessler's going to the bowl game or
That's
not.
on the list.
Yeah, it's like you revel in it now.
You did ditch me in New York. Remember that?
I don't remember
During
that. It never happened.
You came to the TV show.
Never happened.
We had one segment left. I was looking forward to having a drink with you guys after,
weren't.
and you left while
you
Pierre
weren't.
and I were talking in the bar
that's
in
not
New
true.
York.
I don't know. That's fake.
Just
Fake
gone.
news?
Yeah.
Fake, fact and fiction, as Mace would say.
Quiet,
That's what he says.
Quiet, piggy.
Oh, there it is. All right, we're
Good
out early
walk-off.
today for Golden Gopher men's basketball action. Indiana in town to take on the Golden Gophers. We are back tomorrow beginning at 3 o'clock, and we certainly will hope that you will join us then.
Whenever you call me, I'll be there.
I'm incredibly humble.
Whenever you want me, I'll be there.
Little nidbits.
Whenever you need me, I'll be there.
Johnson